If you're not actually out there, actively doing it and going out there and trying and failing and sometimes doing a little bit better and sometimes moving this direction, that direction, you're never going to get there.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello. Today I've got PJ Reilly on the show. PJ, welcome.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
It's great to have you, man. And I appreciate you having me on your show recently. And I was just laughing as I was kind of preparing for this, reading through your bio, and you're like, you had the military background, you landed in Denver, you got out of high school, and you had a 2.0, totally crushed it academically.
Killing it, man.
You've been a personal trainer, you've done direct
Teachers
sales, you failed at insurance. Man, there's a lot of failures and lessons and learning here. And then fast forward, now you are in the dirt game. You're still a child at heart playing in the dirt. No, I'm just kidding.
Right?
But you are
That's a good way to look at it. Maybe
land.
that's what it is.
Yeah, it's like that's your sandbox. You're buying and selling land across the US, right? That's your primary focus. Just, are there any markets you found that you're primarily like super strong in, or?
Yeah, man, I love the middle of the country, man. I love Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas.
Yep.
Colorado and Wyoming are really good too. Maybe because they're closer to me, but I just like those places. There's lots of stuff you can do. You can go out there and use the property. People like to hunt, they like to fish.
Right.
It's just pretty easy to sell properties in those areas too.
Cool. Good to know. So how did you, it looks like you've obviously gone through quite a bit. I mean, how did it all start out, your journey? And I mean, did you move around quite a bit with the growing up in the military thing, or? Yeah,
man, I was born in Barbados. So it's like a really, obviously that's pretty far away, different country, living on an island in the middle of nowhere. So born there, we moved all over the world. My mom's British. We've lived all over Europe and all of these different countries. Now we landed here though, like in high school. So when I was in high school, we moved here to Colorado. I did high school and college here in Colorado. Like you said, 2.0, I was killing it. The teachers loved me. Academics were my strong suit, I was just doing really well in school. So after that though,
and for those who don't get the joke, it's out of a 4, right? Like, I don't know how the system works outside of the US, but yeah.
If you're listening to this podcast outside of the US, no, I was not doing well in school. That's a joke. I was doing very poorly. So we need to find another strategy here. So anyway,
what was the backup plan?
Around. What's that?
What was the backup plan in that case?
There was no backup plan. I decided I was going to be a professional kickboxer. So I started competing all over the country, and I figured that's my thing. Turns out professional kickboxing does not pay very much money. Pays almost no money. In fact, a lot of times you're losing money just by doing it. So went around, did that. I bounced around in a ton of different kind of entrepreneurial endeavors, insurance, personal training. I had jobs too. I worked for the state for a long time. But one day, I was at work and a guy's like, "Hey man, you're an entrepreneur. You should invest in Detroit." So I'm like, "Okay, I'll invest in Detroit." So where do you go when you want to learn how to do something? You go to YouTube, right? Learn how to fix a toilet. You go to YouTube. So that's the place I go for everything. So I go to YouTube and I'm looking up how to invest in Detroit. I know nothing about real estate, but you got that bug, you're an entrepreneur.
You want to do something,
try different things all the time, right?
Yeah.
So I'm learning, and I realized, dude, it's way harder than it sounds. You can buy a house for $1, right? Yeah, well, you buy this house for $1, and then you put the electricity in, and you put all the utilities in and everything, and it gets ripped out before the sun goes down, right? So it's not as easy as it sounds. During my research, though, I stumbled across this guy, and he was talking about buying and selling vacant land. So I was like, whoa, I've always wanted to own land. How does this go? So I got about halfway through the video and I'm like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. I'm an expert already. Halfway through the video, mind you. So I go into Zillow and I find a guy who's selling 2 properties they were for 2 properties for $1,100 each. Now, I just happen to have about $1,200 from a different entrepreneurial endeavor I decided to try. So I had a couple bucks. I'm like, okay, I've gotten halfway through this guy's video. Now, he says you're supposed to lowball the seller, right? You don't offer them full price. So I was like, okay. I was like, how about this? You have 2 properties that are $1,100 each. What if I give you $1,100 for both of them? And the guy says, yeah, we can do that. And I was like, I remember I only got halfway through this video, so I have no idea what to do. So I'm
What's the
like, all
next
right,
step?
what do we do now? And he's like, don't sweat it, man. I'll prepare the deeds. I'll get everything sent off to the county. Send me a check and we're good. I'm like, all right. So I sent the guy a check, which was kind of weird for me to do, just blindly send a guy a check. He was obviously a lot more experienced in the real estate world than I was. He got the deed recorded, everything taken care of. County sent me the deed, and I own 2 properties. And that's kind of how everything got started.
Wow. I was gonna think like, okay, did he scam you? Did he take your money and you never got it
He
back?
could
Because
have.
I've heard of the people doing that early day eBay scam where they're like,
Oh
hey,
yeah.
I'll ship you the product, just send me the payment here or send me the check, and people write a check or send something for a product that they never get, or like a collector Beanie Baby or something back in the day, you know?
Yes.
Well, that's
It
good
could have
that it all
happened. I
worked
could have
out.
gotten taken. I was so excited. I was trying anything new, you know?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think you have to put up a certain amount of money just towards learning and
Yeah,
experience. And
absolutely.
I always tell people that that's far cheaper than going and getting a 4-year degree in any case.
Yeah,
Like two
totally.
grand versus 50K plus or whatever,
I'm still
100K.
paying my college back right now. I'm still
Yeah,
paying it back. And
well,
I mean, what did I really get out of it?
right.
I definitely didn't major in real estate investing. So
Yeah, it blows my mind. And it'd be interesting to have like a whole topic on just this because I know a lot of people value their colleges. They wear their stuff. I wear, my Texas A&M shirts every now and then, but
yeah.
still, I was telling another guest that I had on the show recently, when my fiance and I moved out here, the U-Haul was full, and the thing I didn't bring was that diploma. Like, okay, cool. I got a fancy frame that was $200. It looks great. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
most of the success and most of the things that I've learned that have really made me the money has been outside of that. And you don't need a degree to learn how to flip land or do wholesaling or become a real estate agent or any of those things that are relatively like high ticket sales. I
Yeah.
mean, salespeople are some of the highest paid professionals, like the ones that are really good at what they do. And you don't need any sort of college degree. You just need
Yeah.
know how to talk to people and know how to
Mhm.
convey a feeling of how they're going to feel when they have that end result, like those types of
Yeah.
things.
Experience. You need experience. You need to go out there
Yeah.
and fail. You need to go give your spiel to somebody and them to laugh at you. Right. And then you're like, oh, wow, I got to go the other direction. Right. College is
Right.
based on a lot of theory. So it's a lot of, in theory, this works. In theory, you can do this and make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And if you're not actually out there, actively doing it and going out there and trying and failing and sometimes doing a little bit better and sometimes moving this direction, that direction, you're never going to get there. You're never going to be a salesperson. You're never going to make any money.
Exactly. Exactly. So now you're doing land. When was that first deal that you said? How long ago was that you did that
Yeah, it
first
was
land deal?
2015.
Okay.
I did the first 2 deals. So I bought those 2 for 550 and each 550 each and sold them for $1,500 each. On Craigslist, I think it was Craigslist right afterwards, because I didn't know how to sell either. Now, remember,
Right.
once I bought these properties, I had that video. I went back and finished the video, so I knew I had a little bit more information, but I still didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to sell. So I was like, okay, I guess Craigslist seems like a good place to sell. So I put them both on Craigslist, and they sold right away. And I was like, all right, I guess this works. So I'm like, I should probably figure out the rest of this business.
The important lesson here is that you didn't wait to learn it all, because so many people get stuck with analysis paralysis and they've read 5 books on house hacking and flipping and renovating
Yeah.
and they haven't done a damn thing in terms of
Yes.
taking action towards buying it. I love how you didn't even finish the video and you already bought these pieces of land and
Why
then you
not?
figured out what's the next step. But also, I
Yeah.
guess it was low ticket enough where it wasn't like you're putting your life savings into it.
Totally.
At the end of the day, like a couple $1,000 is like super affordable for most people can throw $500 at. Let's
Yeah.
see if this works.
Yeah, and even to this day, you can buy vacant land for that same price. Now, I don't typically buy those kinds of properties anymore.
Yeah,
But if you wanted to get in, if you wanted just to jump into a real estate business, you could do that with $550 even now.
interesting. So I'm curious because like we talked about yesterday when we met up with some local
Yeah,
Arate folks for dinner/happy hour type
Arte,
thing. Yeah, Arate hack. See, I need to get some Arate merch. I lost the one
some
shirt that I got
swag.
from the guest event in 2019. But why do people, for the most part, buy land? Is it just whenever you're buying land from people, did they hold on to it as an investment? They just thought it would appreciate for 10 years. It was like a cheap way of putting money into something and
Mhm.
just parking it and maintaining that value.
Yeah, sure. A lot of people I talk to, it's an impulse buy for a lot of people. So they were, maybe 30 years ago, Now, 30 years ago, they weren't online. They weren't online at all. So they're looking in the back of magazines. There was
Getting
these
sold on
ads. Yeah, it
lots.
was these super interesting ads, and they would say like, you know, come to Texas and live in this resort, right? And it would be this beautiful pictures of land and properties and palm trees in Texas, and or Colorado or wherever you want to, whatever state. And they'd sell you these properties, and like you said earlier, you go out there and it's just a square in the desert,
Yeah.
right? It's just a square in the desert. There's a road. There's no
No water lines,
no
nothing.
water, no utilities, no palm trees anywhere to be seen,
Because every time
right?
I'm like, why did you guys buy this thing? Like, I don't,
Yeah.
I
And
don't want
then
to
and then
list
another
it.
group, will say they want to build their dream home, right?
Yeah.
So they've always wanted to get out to Colorado and put a home up and live in a cabin and live off the land kind of thing. So a lot of people have these big grandiose dreams, and then life gets in the way, work gets in the way, different things happen, and they just never get around to doing it.
Mhm.
So a lot of people I talk to are, they've had these properties for 30 years. And I'm like, dude, I'm just tired of paying taxes. If there's an HOA associated, I'm tired of paying that. I just want to get rid of this thing. I don't want to have to give this to my kids, when I pass
For it to
on,
be
so
their
that they have to
problem.
deal with this burden. It's kind of a
Yeah.
pain in the ass, honestly, for most people.
Yeah, it seems
Um,
like that's why I was asking, because I'm like, is there
yeah,
any benefit to it? Because like every time someone inherits land, I'm like, why the hell do these people got these random squares in the desert? Or
yeah, yeah. There's lots of them, and initially they have the right idea. They want to build something better. They want to get out of the city. They want to do whatever it is, and different. The ideas were different 30, 40 years ago as well
yeah.
than they are today. But they wanted to get out. They wanted to buy land and live with their family there forever, and it just didn't work out.
Well, thanks for the info on the lot thing, because I was really curious, and you just confirmed my suspicions of someone just bought it 20 years ago. They've been holding
Yes.
on to it, especially now that I've been working closely with like probate attorneys. People pass away, they
Mhm.
get certain lots passed on to their heirs, and then the heirs contact the attorney who contacts me, the real estate professional, to help offload these chunks of land because the people just want the money, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing I always hear with like a parent's house. I mean, the kids have grown up and moved out and started their own families. Like, sure, there might be some sentimental memories, but they probably just want to get rid of that property
Yeah.
and take the cash out of it to go do whatever it is that they want to do next.
Yeah. And a lot of people I run into as well are maybe they've been paying taxes on a property for 30 years. So great
Jeez.
grandpa gave it to them in the 1940s or something like this, right? And
Yeah,
they've been paying taxes for years, and their dad paid taxes, and they don't own this property. They've never owned this property. It was never deeded over to them, but they continue to pay taxes. The county keeps it on the tax roll. They're not going to default on the property. So these guys, they think they own the property. So at this point, they're like, wait a minute, I don't own this. Like, no, you don't own anything. And that's super unfortunate. But I come across that a lot,
jeez.
especially in more rural areas where,
Yeah,
maybe there's not a lot of communication going on. They lived out in this farm for, like 30 years, and they just don't know any better. They think it's their property, but it was never legally deeded over to them. So they just lose the property altogether.
that's nuts. So you've just been focusing on land. Have you ever tried
Mhm.
to do residential, like single family houses
Oh,
as
Chris, I
well?
have done some wonderful single family residential. In fact, I have a property right now that you and I talked about yesterday.
Well, is that like a real single family, or is that the meth trailer we're talking about?
Well, it's two meth trailers, Chris. It's not just one, it's two.
Nice.
So yeah, I usually get sometimes I'll buy land and there'll be a trailer on it, an old house on it, something like that. Really nothing you'd want to live in. Most of them are just tear downs.
Yeah,
You don't really want to live in them. I've been to quite a few of them, and man, you walk in
it's
those
rough.
things and you're like, this thing needs to be destroyed immediately.
Yeah, it's
Like, we
like
need to get rid
wasp
of this thing
nests
right
in the
away.
corner and just
Dude, just
mold. Yeah,
yep, drugs, lots of beer cans everywhere, just trash, and they're not. I didn't buy them with the intention of having a house, so it's not a huge deal to me.
yeah.
I have had people that tell me they want to renovate those things. The two that we spoke about yesterday, I had two people that say they want to fix them up and find someone to live in them. So I was like, yeah, it's absolutely, you can if you want. And
Interesting.
it's possible. It is possible. There's water, sewer, or the whole thing. You could do it. So
Wow.
if you want to put the work in, man, go right ahead.
And at the end of the day, I mean, the mentality I have is like, if you want to buy it and you want to do something to it, I don't care. I'm trying to sell it. If you're willing to
Yeah.
pay what I want, that's cool. We'll get it done. Now it's your problem, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of these properties, even if there's a tear down trailer on it, they're beautiful properties. Eastern Oklahoma, Western Arkansas, parts of Wyoming, Northern Colorado, they are beautiful areas. I mean, amazing areas, wildlife, creeks going to the property, just amazing places to be. So if you can get rid of the eyesores, you really have a nice place, a nice property.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. So you've never really like, other than the nice meth houses we just talked about, like the trailers, you've never done like single family houses or neighborhood homes?
No, not really. Other than the other personal homes that I bought, no, nothing like that. And it is, we're moving towards that a little bit. You know, we're going bigger land deals,
Yep.
maybe some Airbnbs throughout the country a little bit. That's probably the next next logical step. You know, we want to be able to vacation in different places and have an Airbnb out there. So that's probably what we'll do next. But for now, at this point, now it's all been land deals, done like about 450 land deals.
Wow, 450 land deals.
Yeah.
That is quite an amount. And I always hear
Yeah,
that the riches are in the niches. So just focusing on
absolutely.
what you're good at, you know how to send those mailers out to people, get calls in.
Yeah.
Do you have a system? Like I'm curious to know
Mhm.
about your team. Do you have any
Yeah.
virtual assistants? Is there anyone managing inbound phone calls? Is it mainly you? Do you mind sharing a little bit about how you've worked through that and maybe scaled up a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. So initially it was me. I mean, I would handwrite the worst letters in the history of the earth. They were terrible. I would write these letters on like postcards, and I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't know the terminology. Since then, I've gotten considerably better. So now, really, the only part I have in the process is determining where I want to buy the land. So if
Okay.
I say, let's say Jefferson County, Colorado, that's a place we both understand, right? So I will take that list and I'll find all 5 acre properties in Jefferson County, Colorado. I'll use a data source, use data tree. So it's like a data source.
Cool.
I will get the names, addresses of every single person who owns 5 acres in Jefferson County, Colorado. Now, once I have that list, I'm out of the picture. I
Mhm.
email it to my virtual assistants.
They
They
do the
scrub the
rest.
list. Yeah, they do everything with the letters. They take care of all the letters. They send everything into the mailing company. The letter printing company sends everything out. So they mail all the letters for me. I have nothing to do with it after I
That's
decide
awesome.
where I want to buy. Now, when those offers get to the seller's houses, they look at the letter, they can either email, and then I would see it, or they can call back. If they call back, my answering service takes it from there. So they ask them, you know, what county is your property in? What's your name? You know, what's the parcel number? Anything else you want to add to this? And then they will relay that information to me. At
Mhm.
that point, I can scan these responses and determine if it's a bunch of F-bombs, I'm not going to call that guy back.
Right.
Right. If it's, hey man, I accept your offer. Here's my property. I've been wanting to get rid of this thing for years. Boom, easy money right there. I call that guy back right away. We work out a deal. Now, when we're ready to buy the property, talked to 3 different people today about buying a property. It's super simple. I prepare a deed and I have a cashier's check. Remember, these are smaller properties, smaller dollar properties, anything under
Mhm.
10,000. So no title company involved under 10,000. I will contact a mobile notary. I'll mail all the paperwork to the mobile notary, check, deed, any additional county paperwork needed. They will go to the seller, do the signatures, hand them their check. They will mail everything into the county for me.
Cool.
Unless it needs to be e-recorded, which I would prefer to do myself, just so I have a record of the recording. It's done. Property's mine, in my name, all over with. And
Cool.
then from there, I'm ready to sell the land that I own.
Nice. So you pretty much buy it and then sell it to someone else and you just market it better to get your spreads and your profit on there.
Yeah, and I typically sell with owner financing.
Okay.
So, you know, let's say, for example, I buy a property for, let's just say really simple numbers, $5,000. I buy the property. I sell it for 15. Most guys in Western Arkansas can't afford $15,000 all at once. They can afford $300 a month for 15 months.
Mhm.
right? So I seller finance all of that to these guys. So they're able to get the property they want. I get the great return that I want, and everybody's happy.
Cool. And I know we talked about it a little bit yesterday too. You're like, man, sometimes just if people stop paying, you just take the property over and you go find another seller or another buyer rather.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate too, because I do have a lot of people default. I mean, I say a lot. Let's say 15%, maybe 15% of people default.
It's not like too much, I guess. It's kind of to be expected.
It's not terrible, but it is unfortunate because they're paying, everything's going well, and then all of a sudden they stop paying. I send them an email. Hey, what's going on? You missed your payment. Is everything okay? And then no response. And then I send them, then another month goes by. Hey, you're defaulting, man. You're going to lose this property. No response. I try to hit them up on Facebook. I try to call them. They just simply don't respond. They don't want the property anymore. And they don't want to talk about it. So I just take the property back, market it usually later that day. I'll fix up the ad, update it. A lot of times the prices have changed a little bit. Maybe they're more expensive. The property is more expensive now. I'll add that in. Maybe I want to do something different, and then I'll just resell that usually that night.
Cool. And do you have a certain platform? Do you have like an email list you mail out to, like a buyer's list pretty much, or you just look at local channels to market?
Yeah. So I do have a buyer's list, and the buyer's list is good. I have some really consistent buyers, guys that go in, they know the areas, they like to clean up a property. Basically what they'll do with a lot of these guys will do is they'll buy it from me on owner financing. So they're only paying me $300-400 a month, and then they'll sell it for a cash price that's even bigger.
Okay.
Right? They'll find somebody local, they'll go in there, put a driveway in, fix it up somehow, and then resell it, which is fine with me if that's what they want to do. Outside of the buyer's list though, I'd say Facebook Marketplace is where I sell, I'd say 75% of the properties.
Really?
Yeah, you can get, you just join the local Facebook groups, whatever. Cool. Let's say I'm selling in Sequoia County, Oklahoma, right? I will join every Sequoia County Facebook group, everything involving like the
real estate.
Let's say Sequoia County yard sale, Sequoia County buy and sell, something like that. I'll join all of them.
Okay.
And then I'll post these properties.
Cool.
Everybody local's like, that's down the street. I know where that's at. They'll run down there usually that day. I mean, I had 2 people run down today to look at those 2 trailers, checking them out. And they're like, yeah, that looks great. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. It's, you want to get there. You want to get to where you're talking to actual locals, in those specific areas with vacant land. I mean, I'm sure houses is a little bit different. They want to actually live in that area. Right. So,
yeah,
but with the vacant land, these could be places that are like, I'll advertise in Tulsa. That's, 2-3 hours away from this property, but they want a place to go hunt, fish, camp, do that kind of thing. So
cool.
I can do that too.
Very nice. I mean, I just think back to the days where I tried doing some garage sale flips. I'd buy something, I could sell it on eBay, play that arbitrage game of you found something cheap locally. I specifically remember I found like brand new hiking shoes that were never worn, had the tags on them in the original box. They were like too small for me, maybe 3 or 4, shoe sizes a little small. But my mind was, how much are you asking for these? Let me look on Amazon and eBay. And they were selling them for $25 a pair. And these were selling on eBay for like $120 a pair.
Wow.
So that was kind of a cool thing. Obviously there's the fees and you got to ship it and eBay takes their cut or whatever. But essentially you're kind of doing that, but with land and just mobile notaries. Instead of shipping a product, you're sending people out there to go check it out from Facebook ads and things like that.
Yeah. And it's fairly simple too. What I like about it is the low barrier to entry. Your average guy that doesn't have a ton of cash can jump in right now and buy and sell land. That's true. They could start now. And if you are able to snowball it into something bigger, you can buy houses, bigger real estate deals if you want, but it gives you a good place to start that maybe you wouldn't have been able to start otherwise.
Yeah. And it's probably a whole lot less competitive, I would imagine, because I know a million people trying to do wholesaling with houses and, fourplexes and commercial properties. It just seems like the more popular thing. I don't as often see people talking about doing that with land. So probably
it's
slightly
growing a little bit.
Yeah. It's growing.
It is. There's more people doing it nowadays, but not nearly as many as what wholesaling, not even close.
Yeah. I mean, I know everyone's like, oh, I did a wholesale deal once, or oh, my friend did that. Like everyone knows what it is now.
Yeah, but think about it too. It's way more sexy to to wholesale a property, to a house, right?
Right.
It's way more sexy.
That's
You know,
true.
the uh a piece of dirt in the middle of the desert is not that exciting to tell your friends, right? You
Yeah.
don't call mom and say, "Oh my gosh, I sold this amazing,
Piece of
square
land.
of dirt in the middle of the desert in Arizona. It's amazing." But you would tell them when you sold that 4-bed, 2-bath, beautiful home down, down the street in that part of town that everybody knows, right?
That's true, man. That's true. I had this investor listing recently and I didn't even post it on social media. I'm like, it's pretty hideous. I think it's overpriced. The seller wanted a little bit too much. Let's see what we can get. I never even advertised like that I had that on Facebook at least, or like on my social media stories. And there's been a couple of buyers, and like, I went against my gut by taking this overpriced listing, and it's been crickets on the market forever. The offers are coming in where I thought they would, where I was hoping we could list it at. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of, I'm sure you probably deal with some unrealistic sellers sometimes who think
Oh
that they're
yeah.
sitting on a gold mine. And I mean, I don't know. They could actually be sitting on a gold mine. I'm not sure how that all works,
Possible.
but
I bought a gold mine once.
like it was an actual mine.
I bought the okay, now I don't know if you can edit this out. It's not really profanity, but it's this bizarre term. It's called the glory hole.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So in up in the mountains here, in near Idaho Springs, there's a bunch of mines. Well, I own the Alice Glory Hole, which is I know it sounds weird, but
That's
it
what it's
really is.
actually
It's the
called.
what's that?
That's what it's actually called.
That's what it's actually called. Yeah. So it's this big empty space with a big metal door at the top, and that's where you go in. And they used to go in and dig for
Drill.
gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine for gold.
That's cool. I
Yeah.
like that on the drives out here when you're going to a hike and you see some like old mine or
Yeah.
some kind of tools or something, or coal mine. I don't even know. I just admire it from afar because, obviously focusing on the windy roads, kind of don't want to die.
Yeah.
Well, that's
It's
cool,
pretty
man.
dangerous.
Yeah, you've been up to a lot with like all the deals you've done. You said 450 land deals, and
Mhm.
you're doing some bigger deals, I would imagine.
Yeah.
What do you see for the next couple of years? I mean, do you enjoy what you do? Do you ever get bored of like, man, I'm tired of dealing with like dirt in the middle of the desert? Because
Yeah.
that's kind of where I feel sometimes. Where sometimes I'm like, do I really enjoy this? Am I just getting bored? Do I want to try something new for the sake of that? Do you ever
Mhm.
feel like you want to move on to something else, or just do this part time, or like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. So I love land. I actually enjoy land. Like a lot of people that do things they don't like the things they're selling. It's just a widget to sell, right?
Yeah.
I genuinely do like land. I don't go out to properties all that often, but when I do, I'm like, this is so cool. Um, that being said, if you want to get to the next level in life, you can't keep doing the same things you're doing, right?
Right.
So you have to grow. You have to either scale the current business you're in to that level, or you need to jump into a different sandbox and play a different game altogether.
Yeah.
So currently the plan is to stay in land. Absolutely stay in land. Keep buying and selling maybe bigger properties. Here in Colorado, we have a lot of very high dollar properties they're life changing if you can buy them and sell them.
Yeah.
Any of those on the prices I'm paying, but the options are out there, right? So you can definitely grow and scale in that way. We're always looking at other deals though too, other real estate deals, commercial deals, Airbnbs. I like Airbnbs. We really want to start scaling and building an empire of Airbnbs as well. And that's just as much for the cash flow as it is for the family to enjoy around the country. We travel a lot. We're always in different states doing different things. So we want to have a place to stay out there anytime we're there, and then, have great cash flow as well.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Is there anything we're missing? Anything we left out? I feel like we covered everything. I'm like, okay, I know how to sell them. I know how you send the mail out, how your whole system works. I appreciate you sharing all those details. Just, it's always interesting to hear. And even people outside of real estate can probably get ideas on, okay, I send out marketing. I have a number on there. A call center takes those calls coming in. I get the emails. What happens next? Is there anything you feel there's like room for improvement on in your process? Or do you feel like, okay, it's pretty buttoned up?
Oh yeah,
What's your
there's
thoughts on that?
always room for improvement, man. And I have the issue of I don't really just work in the business anymore. I do a lot of working on the business, but I need
Right.
to completely remove myself from the business. That's
From the
that's the
inside.
end
Yeah.
goal. Absolutely. So there's always room for improvement. And I work on it just about every day, working out little systems where we can move the effort I'm putting in onto somebody else or into maybe an automation.
Mhm.
Or not, I'm not doing it at all. I have no part in it. Um, so that's there's always room for improvement. You always want to, even when you're doing really well. I know a lot of guys even in my industry right now, they're doing seven figures pretty consistently, and even they say, hey, I just wish I wasn't doing this or that, or I wish I could figure out a way to handle this. So there's really never a point where you're finished, you're finalized. You're
Right.
like, I'm settled now. I can just sit back and enjoy it forever. Guys like us, Chris, we never settle. It's always going to be something else we can improve on, right?
That's
If I'm
true.
making $10 million a year,
I'm
I
gonna make
want to
more.
make 20. If I'm you're a workout guy, you're a fitness dude, you have huge biceps, you're one of those guys. If I can bench 280, I want to bench 340.
Right.
Something like that, right? It just doesn't ever get, we're never satisfied, right? We
Yeah.
always have goals, we have things we want to improve upon, and that keeps us going, man. It keeps us alive.
I agree. I agree. I'm working on just that internal motivation, and I've mentioned it a few times on the show. I've been procrastinating on finishing it up, but I'm rewatching The Last Dance again, and just Michael Jordan was a freak, man. Like for him to push himself that hard, push his team members, like I heard
Yeah.
Andy talking about this on a recent podcast as I go through that podcast too. They were talking about LeBron James and like he is kind of coasting and he knows he has more in the tank, but he's just like kind of
Yeah.
skating by. That resonated with me where I feel like I'm kind of doing that too. How do
Mhm.
you get to that? And I see behind you got The Power of One More. I need to read that book. I haven't yet, from
Yeah,
Ed
it's really good.
Milet.
Got a
Looks
few
like a
good
good
books
one
back
over
there.
there. But the whole idea of just one more, right? Continue to show up and get to that next level and keep on pushing. So I love that you mentioned that. And I love meeting other like-minded people that are like, dude, there is no finish line. It's just,
No.
we're going to keep wanting more.
Yeah.
Just
And it
accepting
drives
that.
people crazy too. Like a lot of your friends
They
that
don't get it.
aren't like that, they don't get it. And it's not really, you don't fault them. You just honestly have to, and you don't want to get rid of them, because I have good friends that I don't want to get rid of, but you definitely have to say, okay, I'm going to compartmentalize you in a certain part of my life now, and I'm going to keep moving forward.
Right.
I'm going to keep growing and getting better and moving forward. And it's going to be a lonely world. It really will be. There's not a lot of people, at least that I grew up with, that are kind of going along those same paths. But it's just what I'm going to do. I'm not going to stop.
Yeah. It's just that pursuit of excellence. It's really cool. And
Absolutely.
just as you, I think there's another quote that I really like that said, circle got smaller, vision got larger, or something
Oh,
like
that's
that.
good.
Like, yeah, your friends aren't going to all come along with you on that
Yeah.
ride. And maybe you've just got such massive big goals, people can't relate. And I also like what you said there, that you're not going to just cut them all loose. Cause I feel like I kind of
Sure.
did that. We moved from Houston to Denver. I like didn't even say goodbye to a lot of people because I feel like we're kind of connected online. You can Zoom me anytime. I'll answer my phone for a few people that I like.
Mhm.
I'll send people to a voicemail if I don't want to talk to them.
Yeah.
But really, they can consume our content. They can connect with us. There's ways for people to stay in touch today, no matter where in the world you are. Like that's how you're doing all these deals from like the seat that you're sitting in right now.
Yeah.
You don't ever really have to go to land deals, I would imagine, unless
No.
they're close by and you want to.
Yeah. I almost never have to go to a physical deal. I sent a guy out the other day. Um, I was buying a 40-acre property in Oklahoma, and beautiful property on the map, looked great. It was awesome. So I sent my guy out there. He says, I'm pretty sure that area is covered by a fence. He goes out there, 8-foot high fences surrounding the entire property. I mean, hundreds and hundreds, maybe 1,000 acres surrounded
Jeez.
by this giant fence. The
Was it like
property I'm in,
Westworld? I don't know
what's
if you see.
that?
Have you seen Westworld? I'm like, is it like a
Yeah,
Westworld
right.
places?
Yeah.
Like no one knew it was on the map.
Westworld, it's Jurassic Park. I don't know what is it was in this thing. No, it's a hunting.
Oh, okay. Like
They
a
lease it
hunting
for hunting.
haven place or
Yeah.
whatever they call it.
So these guys have locked this out. Well, I guess supposedly the property I was going to buy is in the dead center of that thing. So the guy was buying it from doesn't necessarily understand that he probably lost the property at some point down the road.
Oh,
It's really bad title issues, but either way, I didn't have to go. My guy he went to the county. He did all the work for me. I paid him
And
$100.
he found that out.
All done. Yep. He did it for me. He was physically there. He did all the paperwork. I don't have to do anything for that.
So for that, in that example, that was like you couldn't buy the deal because it was a different owner now. Is that what happened?
Yeah. Oh, it would have been a nightmare. First of all, getting to a fence.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you send potential buyers to go out? Oh, yeah. First of all, here's what you do. I'll send you some bolt cutters. We're going to cut through this fence. And then you're going to get in. There's bunch of guys with guns in there.
Right. Interesting.
You just run real fast. There's nothing I could have done. You know what I mean? So
yeah. So you kind of did your due diligence through someone else, and there were your boots on the ground.
Okay. Yeah. And it helps a ton. And you can get those guys on Facebook Marketplace. I will do the exact same thing. I mean, in that particular area, I have a guy that I've used for the entire time. Ever since I started, met this guy. He was just amazing human being. He knows the area, good guy. So we've been using him for the whole time. But if I don't have somebody in a specific area, I'll go to Facebook Marketplace and I'll post an ad. Hey, I'm looking for somebody to take pictures of this property. I'll pay you $50 cash. I'll Venmo you right now. They send the pictures. I Venmo them. We're done. Pictures are done. Now, once you start talking to those people, you say, hey, you want to make a little bit more money? And they're like, yeah, of course. Would you run to the county and do this and this and this for me? Would you go to the neighbor and talk to them about maybe some history about the property, or if they're interested in buying the property, something like that, something that I don't have to do, that I would consider of value, right? I can send these guys out $100, $50, and they'll do it.
Cool. And I love hearing the ideas from investors, because I've listened to tons of real estate and wholesaling podcasts stuff, and there's a lot of guys that do similar things, right? Skip tracing, finding owners, direct mail, ringless voicemail. And I think that it's so different than a lot of other industries. Like if you're doing direct mail, or that's so different than like a Facebook ad to an e-commerce product and selling a t-shirt or something on Facebook ads, right? You're having to be more creative because there's a physical asset on the ground, and just those ideas and the concepts of finding someone on Facebook who can be your boots on the ground and take photos of a random lot. Like it helps you think more creatively and just solve problems, because you're doing that in multiple markets.
Yeah.
Whereas most people who don't ever look at these things, they run into problems that are super small, and that stops them in their tracks. And you're just like, dude, put a Facebook ad up, find someone to do that for you, pay them $50. It's easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of goes back to relationships, like building good relationships with other real estate people.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know that was a thing you do. So what I do, I ask somebody else, hey man, what do you do when this problem comes up? Instead of stopping, right? I'm like, so what do you do? Oh, here's what I do. Oh, really? That's cool. That's interesting. And then I go and I use their strategy, right? But if we didn't have relationships with guys like you, Chris, like the meetup we were at yesterday that you so kindly set up for everybody and organized and took care of for everybody. But it's groups like that, groups like Arate, different real estate groups where you can meet people and bounce these crazy ideas off of. Any problem feedback. you have, you're going to get great feedback.
Yeah.
And they're going to give you this stuff most of the time for free.
Right.
You ask them a simple question and they give you a simple answer. You're like, oh yeah, that was so easy.
Exactly. That's the power of these groups. And I think a lot of people try to figure it all out on their own. And if you're trying to Google stuff and watch YouTube videos, you can learn a good amount, but there's nothing like happening to find someone who's 2 years ahead of you on the journey. We just talked about that yesterday too. You find someone who's 2 years ahead of you, who's willing to actually give you the answers and not trying to hold their cards close to their chest, because you're in the same group. You both are growth mindset, abundance focused, and you're both wanting to help each other out to get to that next level, wherever that may be.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're outside of this kind of world, I guess, the self-improvement type world, you think the opposite. You think there's no one going to help me. I'm going to have to get this on my own, right? I'm going to have to learn everything on my own. I'm the only person to be able to do this. But once you get in, you do see more people willing to help. A lot of guys at the top want to talk to other people because it is lonely. There's not a lot of people to talk to. So they're like, yeah, you want to learn how to sell land? Oh yeah, let's talk about it.
It's funny what happens too when you just combine with like-minded people that have similar passions, because you two can nerd out about land and meth trailers and stuff.
Yes.
Because you said you love land. That to me is like when someone's like, I love accounting. When I meet accountants that are like, I love accounting. And I'm like, how? It just seems so dry and boring.
Yes.
But you legitimately lit up like a kid on Christmas talking about, I love land. I love
It's
seeing
fun.
it.
Yay.
So you really like playing in the dirt and stuff, but like the land life, everything you've been building with your podcast and your branding, it's cool because you've been at it since you did that first deal. You said back in 2015, was
2015, yeah.
Awesome. So you've been at it for a long enough period of time too, where you're seeing consistency, deal flow, you know how it works. Yeah. You've got the connections, you've got your person you've relied on in that one market to go take those photos. Mm-hmm. So it all stacks on each other. So that's really cool just to hear what you figured out along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been doing it for quite a while. I know what's wrong. I know what can go right. I know how to keep you on the right track, I guess. But yeah, I mean, and like we said before, though, you're learning something new every single day. Every day you're learning and trying to improve and get a little bit better and, work the angles.
Well, it's been one of your biggest lessons since you started this. Like one of the biggest things where you're like, man, that's what got me to the next level. Was there any one thing, or would you just say it's like all the little things that combined?
Well, growing, getting better, you don't always play like we said a little while ago. If the sandbox you're playing in, right, isn't always the sandbox that you should be playing if you want to be successful, right? So if you sit in this buying these little quarter-acre slots in the desert all day, and it's working, man, it's great, it's going well, but you're not making any money. Your goal when you started this thing was to really make money, right? So you got to roll that into bigger properties now. That was an issue. That was something I definitely had to figure out because it was going so well at the lower end. Mm-hmm. It was doing so well. It was constantly getting deals and selling properties, and it was getting that dopamine hit, man. I was like, "Ooh, I'm really smart.
Doing
making a lot of money." You look at your bank account, you're like, "Yeah, it's all right." So it was the moving from one area of this particular business into the next, and it's like we said before, it's just constant growth. Right. But it is easy to stay in that lower end, especially if you're doing well. Especially if you're like the guy that everyone's like, wow, he's pretty good at that.
Yeah.
You've got to move yourself out and put yourself into a different sandbox and play there.
See, that's such a good point that I think a lot of people need to hear, myself included, because it's easy for us to get comfortable. You hit that level you're comfortable with. Okay, I'm pretty good at this. I know these people. I'm starting to become more well-known in this market. I don't want to expand. I don't want to go to that next market. I don't know anyone there, right? Like that deal's too big. I'm not in that price point. All the little things that stop us from going to that next level. So just hanging out with people that think bigger and like, oh, okay, might be time to go play in a bigger sandbox or a different sandbox and just learn that next skill.
Absolutely. And there's so many ways of explaining that to people. Remember when you were a freshman in high school, all the seniors were so big. They were adults. They were gigantic. I'll never be that big. Then you get there and you're like,
I'm that big now. Yeah.
Yeah, I am that
like
big.
The freshmen look like little babies again.
Yes. And it's not that big a deal. It's the exact same thing. Once you grow and you mature and you do the things that are required to get to the next level, you get there and you're like, wow, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I was able to do it.
And lessons and mentors help so much because as I meet smarter and smarter people, I went to a guys' night thing that we organized recently, and there were 3 of the guys there were taking golf lessons actively or something because they want to get better at golf. They're learning how to improve their swing, and they're seeing quick improvement because they're working with someone who's done it and can teach it effectively so that they're not trying to figure it all out on their own. So that I see that with like having a business coach, being an RTA, just getting around people who are doing it. You can learn from those who are doing it or have done it instead of just theorizing, right? Like, which I always feel that way about school. Someone's teaching you about stuff that they've never done or that they used to do 10 years ago. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. And a real coach or somebody that really has done the thing before, if they can help you, it's like a cheat code for life.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a cheat code in a video game. You start at this level, but he or she, the coach, explains, hey, you go this direction, you bob when you should weave, when you were thinking about weaving, you move in this direction and you get so much further ahead than you would have on your own.
Yeah, 100%. Man, well, we talked about a lot of great stuff today. There's a lot of takeaways. I took some notes here just on the land side, but I think it's applicable no matter what industry people are listening. You can take these tools that we talked about and just think creatively, solve problems, right? Find the who's, you don't always have to know how to do the how. You just find the right person who is your who, and they'll do it for you. Yeah. So is there any last takeaway you'd like to leave the audience on, something that they can go implement today just to play in that bigger sandbox?
Yeah, man. Whatever it is, there's always that thing we know we should be doing. You know, that thing you wanted to do. I want to start a plumbing company. I want to be I want to take up soccer. I want to do something, right? There's always that something you want to do, but you're always so hesitant to do it. My
Yeah.
advice for you would be to do it right this second. As you're listening,
Stop the video and do it.
stop the video, pull over. Chris will talk again in a minute. You can pause it, and make that call. Jot down that note. Do that thing that will get you into that position that you know you want to be in. I'm telling you right now, life is short. There will be a point in your life where it's too late. Okay, it's too late to do the thing you want to do. Do it right this second, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you have a free time. No time is free. Do it right now.
That's the best advice. And you are actually practicing what you preach, because you talked about that earlier. Like, you didn't even finish the video. You went and bought two pieces of
Absolutely.
land.
Go for it, baby. Go for
I
it.
love it. I love it. Well, thank you, PJ. Where can our audience go to connect with you, to learn more, to check out your podcast?
Yeah, man. Got the podcast. I'm on every social media site that there is, I think. Facebook, PJ Reilly. TikTok. I know I may be too old to be on TikTok, but I am. I don't care. I'm giving it a shot. So
YOLO.
it's PJ Reilly is Land Life. That's the TikTok. Land Life and PJ Reilly on Instagram. YouTube channel is Land Life, LANDLIFE. Check out if you want to learn about land, if you want to give it a shot and check out the land business, landlifecourse.com. Super affordable. This isn't one of those crazy expensive courses. It's just me showing you how to do land.
Yeah.
And if that's something you want to do, man, jump right in and I'll help you out.
Cool. And you already explained a ton of it, like, for free here. So I
Give it all
appreciate
away.
that. Yeah, I think you gave it all away. That's the course.
Delete
You're
it
welcome,
all.
everyone. I pulled the course out of you for free. No, but that's the way to go, because when you lead with value, people are like, okay, he clearly knows his stuff. He's doing deals actively. He's done 450 land deals. Let me go check out the course. So everyone, make sure to go connect with PJ. PJ, thanks again for your time, man. I look forward to connecting here again soon.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Again, I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you.